Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to focus on figures. Okay, how to create figures that meet with the requirements. So the requirements are for the journal publications. We want to create nice figures and legible figures that can be appreciated by our readers, and also explain the ideas and research results clearly to the readers. So before we get started, let's first have a look at the components of a figure. So if we have four figures, we will have A, B, C, D. For example, if we have 2 by 2, 4 figures, A, B, C, D. So we want to put the figure index over here. So otherwise, the readers will not be able to know which subfigure you are referring to if you have multiple figures. So this one is called a figure index. The second one is called a ylabel. This is called a label. And those numbers are called axis. And then we have xlabel and x-axis. So those axes are not numbers anymore, but most likely you will have numbers and text and different kind of, if it is for the bar chart. So for this one, this is materials. And inside the figure, you have lines and the markers. So line width can be adjusted. Marker size can be also adjusted. And for this figure, it is created by MATLAB. So you have a figure box, and the box can be on and off. So it's just one command in MATLAB, on and off. You also have grid lines. Sometimes I like grid lines if I want to check a particular axis and the values. So you can turn grid on and off. Depending on the scenario, you can choose to turn it on and off to make your figure look much nicer. So those are the components. And also for the X label and the Y label, be sure to put your units. If you have, this is time, then you put a milliseconds or seconds. And what kind of units are you referring to? And Fiedler number, this is lambda square. And those kind of units are the amplitude or the voltage. So you want to put the exact unit over there. So in this way, the figure will be more informative, okay? And the people use different kind of font, but I prefer to use Arial. Please use Arial or Times New Roman, and don't use other font in the figure. So all figures should be consistent in formatting throughout your paper. And check the font size, 9 width, so this should be 9 width. Font weight for x-axis, y-axis, x-label, y-label, and all the lines. Please do not drag the figure to resize. So when I say drag the figure to resize, means if you have this figure, okay, sometimes people drag it, okay, and drag it bigger or smaller. And this will make figure look really weird, you see? So do not drag it. And then you said, oh, if I don't drag it, how can I make sure it is the right size? We're going to talk about later and how to make sure it's the right size. And be cautious about the aspect ratio. So inside the Microsoft Word, and there is a design tab. In the design tab, you will be a format tab. So let's make this one, for example, this one. If you want to resize, make sure you lock the aspect ratio, and then you can resize. So the aspect ratio will be the same for this one, and we can make sure the size, not aspect ratio. But even lock the aspect ratio, you will be able to manually resize it in different ways. So, but anyway, if you click on the width specified in this way, it will keep the aspect ratio. But we will come back to this later. And most importantly, make sure everything is legible in the figures. And for some papers, I couldn't even see the x-axis and those kind of x-axis, y-axis, because they are resized from a very big figure to a smaller figure, and those labels and the axis, it's very hard. Even if zooming 10 times, you couldn't see it. So those kind of papers definitely is going to be rejected. So you can check my demos in the MATLAB File Exchange, and those are some of the toolbox that I created before, and I follow a specific rules to create figures. So now I'm going to show you two examples. This is example 1, example 2, and so let's see. Those are the figures. Okay, let's first create the first figure. You see, this is our first figure. And in this figure, I use the position. And to fix the position, you see, every time, if I rerun the program, it will come out to be the same location. Let's do it again. Yeah, it's always appear over here. So it's 100 pixels to this corner. And then this is a figure width, and this is a figure height. Okay, so it's 100 pixels from this corner. Now, let's look at this figure. So this figure actually has, those are the data, and then you plot the figure, and you can specify the line style. So here I use dash line. And if you want to check the line specification, let me see. You can go to help. If you search plot, you will be able to see the line specifications. So those are all the line specifications. So this is dashed line, this is solid line, this is dotted line. And the markers you can have different markers and different colors. So here, what we have is a dashed line, green, and with the square markers. And the line width can be changed to 2, and marker size is specified to be 10. And if we look at the edge color, you see the edge color is blue, and the face color is pretty much 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 is gray. Now you see we have xlabel, and label the font size and font weight, and I let it be bold. And this all can be changed and modified, but this is my way to do it. I keep the same style for every figure. And then I have title, the same style. And then I got the current figure, so the current axis. And then I do the Y direction. So Y direction can be normal. So that means from the smallest to the largest. And if you change this to be reversed, so this will go from the largest to smallest. It can be reversed. And you can also get the current axis and all the line widths, the box, they are all 2. Font size, they are bolded. Font size 10. Font weight is bold. And the grade is on. You see, we have a grade and axis type. So make sure you understand what is axis type. Let me show you if I don't have this line, what's going to happen. Okay, you see, this is not axis type because in some figures, people tend to have a smaller, they tend to create a figure with some empty space. You see, this is called empty space. And if I can also set the X limit, and the X limit can be set. Let me see. X limit. Set or query X limit. Okay, so X limit is 0 to 5, and you can set X limit or Y limit. So if you set Y limit, we have maybe minus 1.5 to 1.5. So in this way, you see we have a lot of white space. So you have white space here and white space here, white space here. They are not well utilized, okay? So this is not a good figure. So I don't prefer we have a large chunk of white space. So that's why I use axis tight. Axis tight will give you a well-scaled figure, and you have all the line and in different locations, so that all the empty space they were occupied. I don't like white space. Please, in the future, if you create figures, don't leave a lot of blank space in your figure. Now, this is what we have created the figure. Now, let's have a look at the second figure. So those are the two figures, and I specify they come out to be the same location. And for the position, try to, you can make it bigger. If you don't specify this position, it's going to be bigger. But if you copy the figure, for example, if you put it over here, you can delete it. If you don't specify the figure position, and if you create a bigger figure, you see this one is much bigger, I drag it much bigger. And then you copy the figure, you put it over here, what's going to happen? Okay, and this is, I used the landscape. Okay, I can use portrait mode. So this is going to be a very big figure. And you can make it smaller by doing the cropping. And I don't want wide space. So that's why you can crop the title and make sure the figure is tight, not only in the other location over here as well. And the figure is 2. Okay, this is not a good one. Now let me make it a landscape so that I can crop it. So don't leave a lot of white space. Okay, so you see, this is a large figure. If you don't create the figure in the right size, once you copy it over here, and you might want to resize. Okay, so if you resize it, what's going to happen? You see all the X label, Y label, they are not legible. They have to be zoomed in, then you can see it. So in a regular size paper, if you print it, you will not be able to see the X axis, Y axis, X label, Y label. So that's why it's very important that before you copy, you want to make sure your figure is in the right size. You want to resize to the right size, and then you copy it. You see here, it's going to be a small figure, and it's going to be legible. And you can crop it. And this is a very nice figure, and then you can fit it into 2-column paper format, or the 1-column figure format. All the space are well utilized. Okay, and we also have another figure. So this is a different way to do the figure, and you can also copy this one and put it here. And you can crop it and make sure it's in the right place. So I believe you know how to do the rest. So by all means, we want to make sure our figures in the paper. For example, I show you an example over here. You see, I have the X label second, in unit is second, and the Y label is current MP. And we have all the values, X-axis and Y-axis, and all the curves. And I also added my own labels here. You see, I use a canvas, and then I put the figure in, and then I add a text box, and to add my annotation to different signal components. Same thing happened here. You can add the text box. So this is time seconds. So I can, if you have multiple figures, you can put all of them together into the canvas. So in this one, I have a canvas right here. I have figure captions, And you see I have A, B, and is and the power profiles, and B is P2 part-to-part variations. Okay, so this is how I organize the figures. And if we go back, there are also other options like X limit, Y limit, multiple axes, and subplots. And please search line specifications. So you see here, this is called line specification. Oh, this is a X limit. But if you go to plot, and you will be able to see all the line specifications. Okay, you can view those kind of properties you can specify for each figure. And also, if you create a figure and you want to make some arbitrary changes, then what you want to do is you click on, I believe, plot tools. So in plot tools, you see here, you can select the xlabel, and you can even delete it, and you can change the font. You can change the font to, let me type Arial. Okay, and you can use a different font size, but it's better to do it in, what I am doing it in the program, this is doing it in a program way, put it in the script, and then you specify everything you can specify, or you can do it manually over here, okay? And there are two different ways to do it, because all the components, and you can control them. You can make, you can delete the title, because in most of the papers, I don't have title. And if you go to this one, I don't have title here because the title is actually in the caption. So we don't need to replicate the title over here anymore. We just put the title over here in the caption. And at the end of the caption, please make sure you have a period. And you have figure .7 and then semicolon, and then you have A and a B. So you have figure A, figure B. Okay, now this is called a figure property. Okay, if you select the markers, so here I have already selected the markers. You can change the, you can, oh, I select the lines because it's green, right? So if it is a line, I can make it black, and for the marker, you can change the, make it green, and edge, and the fill, you can make it blue, you see? So those things you can all change by yourself, and by doing it in different ways, you can do it in the programs, in script, and or you can just select the figure. But I think a much more convenient way is to do it in the programs, okay? And you get a better understanding of how to control them when you generate the figure. And you can also reverse, you see, reverse the x-axis. And you can also reverse the y-axis. That means the largest to the smallest. Okay, you can also make a log scale, and you can also make a linear scale. So there are many things you can change, and you can also find this line, and you can change the line width, marker size. And if you come here, you can click on more properties. So you will be able to see the camera position. If you have a 3D plot, you want to put the camera position in different location. You can rotate your figure, put your camera position, put your light position. So that X direction, Y direction, so this is normal. You can reverse them. You see X direction is reversed. So for a figure, there are many components, and you want to make sure you understand those components. I have just introduced some of them, and there are much more to be explored. And you can search multiple commands like GCF. So get a current figure handle. And then you can check the figure properties. So each figure will have many different kinds of properties. You can check each one of them. You can get the current axis. So in the figure, you can have axis handles. You can have multiple axes. Okay. If you get the GCA current axis handle and the axis property. So axis also have different properties. And let's go back. Let's see. And you see axis, clear the figure, get a current figure, and you can set and current figure. So those are the for the figures. I do hope you guys can watch this video closely and make sure you understand how to use the programs to generate the figure that satisfy your requirement or meet with the requirement. For the papers, we want to make sure we have consistent style. I don't want one figure you have font size 10, the other figure you have font size 9 and 8. So for example, in this one, we want to make sure all the figure, you see, if we do it in 100%. So all the figure, you want to make sure the font size and the font, whether they are bold and they are bold or not, italicized or not italicized, everything should be the same. Okay, be consistent for all figures in the paper. Everything should be legible. Please do not drag the figure to resize. I have seen many cases, people drag the figure to resize in the presentation and in the paper. And I hope if you come from my group and through this video, you will understand and how do we create the figures that are meeting with the requirement, and the figures illustrations, make sure they are nice and they are very informative in the paper. Okay, so this is the end of this lecture.